Like a lot of men, I have spent a good part of my adult life thinking, worrying, what happens if and when I have children? How does my life change? Is that something that I want to do? I think there are a lot of things that men think about when it comes to this topic. And I've really spent a lot of time working through that on a level of how do I feel about this. But there was one element that I noticed as a young adult in the United States that added some extra fuel to that fire and made me really consider, is this something that I want to do? And as weird as it seems, that extra something was being a young adult living in the United States and getting into my business career, meeting people, and seeing how some of the people around me would use their kids as an excuse, as a shield to not do things that they wanted to do. I picked up on this rather early, where I remember hosting a party one time, and I had a friend and his girlfriend who had confirmed to come to the party, and then at the last minute, our child is sick, so we're not able to come. They called me a few hours before the party. And later found out their child wasn't sick, they just didn't want to come to the party. They had other things that they needed to get done, but that was the most socially acceptable thing to say, was to throw their kid under the bus and blame him for not being able to go to the party. And I would see that happen, see that manifest itself numerous times, how there are people who do that. And what's interesting now in years of being the nomad capitalist is watching people here in the comments, people who come up to me in the street, people who I help, saying, well, Andrew, I can't do that because I have kids. And what intrigues me is that when I look out the window, whether it's here in Malaysia, whether it's in Montenegro, in Georgia, in Colombia, in Mexico, anywhere around the world, I look out my window, I go out in the street, I go out into the world, and I see kids. Kids laughing, kids playing, kids going to school, kids learning how to read and write, kids doing projects, kids selling things, kids being kids. And it's always baffled me, this idea that is rooted in the fear that so many folks have of doing something different. People are afraid of getting out of their comfort zone. And what I have studied now for numerous years is a collection of excuses that people make for why they can't simply go offshore. People say, Andrew, this is a young man's game. This is a game, you're single, or okay, you're married, but once you have kids, the whole game changes. Because there are no kids being born in other countries. Because there are no kids going to school in other countries. Let's go back to go where you're treated best. Chances are the schools that your kids are going to are not the best in the world. Chances are the environment they live in is not the safest in the world. Chances are they're not associating with the best and the brightest in the world. And I know this is a very sensitive topic. And I don't say this to judge, but I say it to implore you to consider, why is it that you can't be a nomad capitalist and have kids? Because kids are everywhere. There's no shortage of kids. And somehow, the same way that people who put their money in Singaporean banks or Georgian banks or banks anywhere in the world, somehow most of those people aren't losing all of their money. Somehow it's not only where you live where the banks are good enough and aren't collapsing like a tent. It's how most of the banks in the world are. People are all around the world accessing their money without issue. And in the same way, people are raising their kids without issue. They are educating their kids with that issue. Now, I'm not going to tell someone how to raise their kids. I wouldn't do that. Our former editor, Ashley, wrote a book called World Schooling, where she talked about the different types of education you can give your kids, and certainly there are a lot of options out there, everything from putting your kids in an international school to homeschooling to unschooling and all sorts of other alternatives in between. I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but what I want you to consider is, how is your family situation an excuse? Because let me tell you this. Let's say you're making $500,000 a year and you're living in a place where you're paying $200,000 in tax. What if you could take that $200,000 over the next 10 years and set that aside for your kids? If you put that money even in a bank account, you could potentially have $2.5, $3 million. If you reinvested it, you could have far more. That could have a great impact in your child's life. And so, to me, the ability to create wealth, the ability to share experiences with your child, the ability to allow them to build toughness and worldliness is not a detriment, but a gift. And so, my suggestion and my question to you is, what is it that's really holding you back if you have kids? I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. What is it specifically that you feel can't be done with kids by living this lifestyle? Because I'm not telling you to go and travel to 30 different countries a year. I'm not telling you to constantly be living on a plane or moving all around or living out of a suitcase. I'm saying consider going where you're treated best, whether that's living in one other place, keeping more of your money, building wealth faster, showing your kids a different side of the world that perhaps is far more educational than anything they'll see where they are now. My friend who recently helped him get his Italian passports for his kid, I said, why don't you bring your family over to Asia for spring break? Take them out of school for an extra week. I said, I promise they'll learn more here than they would hanging out in the public school system back in the suburbs. He said, no doubt. So if 1 week, why not 2? If 2 weeks, why not 2 months? I want to know specifically. I'm curious to hear, why is it that having a family holds you back? Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.